Karen Blixen, she was from Denmark, but was inspired to start her own coffee farm. And out of Africa, she chronicles her experience as I had a farm in Africa. The only trouble was she was growing the wrong type of coffee at the wrong altitude. I'm here in Chicago, and I think we're only about 600 feet above sea level. But my favorite Starbucks here in Chicago is 55 East Jackson. And that's what we're here to talk about. Stanley's favorite things, Starbucks coffee in the city of Chicago. I've been going to this particular Starbucks for a number of years now. It's near my office, and it's one of the largest Starbucks in my area, and it's by far, I think, most successful in their 10-store district. They tell me it has its highest sales volume, and the people are friendly, and it's very well frequented, and they are very quick and efficient. Not that those are the only important values, but they're important when you're starting your day. And I do start my day almost every day at 55 East Jackson. My next favorite is even though completely different, is the John Hancock Center Starbucks at 875 North Michigan Avenue. Completely different vibe. It's a really small hole in the wall kind of place with kind of the vibe of a nightclub. It's it's dark at all hours of the daytime. People are very friendly, and it's a completely different vibe. I wouldn't say it's quick and efficient, but it's has kind of a swagger, and you don't mind that it takes them just a little. They're a little more deliberate in their pace at the John Hancock Center. Of course, this is located in one of the most prominent and recognizable buildings in downtown Chicago, the John Hancock Center. There was a mild controversy a few years ago when the Hearn people tried to sell the naming rights and actually debranded the John Hancock Center, claiming that it was, a holdover of the John Hancock Insurance Company. But of course, the building was never the John Hancock Insurance Building. It was the John Hancock Center, named after an American patriot, and it's still known throughout the Gold Coast and probably around the world as the John Hancock Center. Of course, the John Hancock Center is directly across the street from the Fourth Presbyterian Church, or vice versa, another local landmark in the Gold Coast. For many years in the bulletin at Fourth Pres, their tagline was the John Hancock Center is across the street from us. So much for trying not to be pretentious. I guess this to be my third favorite is Delaware and State. This is in my residential neighborhood, and this is my Sunday go-to coffee place. I would say very friendly, very quick and efficient. It's got a good neighborhood vibe, a lot of dog walkers, young couples, older married people, some children, a lot of dogs. Big dog neighborhood at State and Delaware, and all around good vibe, good service as always. This isn't necessarily my fourth favorite, but it's probably my on my radar. This is the Starbucks at LaSalle and Monroe. It's directly across the street from the Northern Trust Bank. So I have a little anxiety when I'm making a visit over here because usually there's some issue at the bank. I think the last meeting I attended there was about the Silicon Bank collapse, which was very amusing. Their British analysis blamed it all on the American banking system, which they said is kind of held together with sawdust and band-aids. But it's a good location. Of course, the LaSalle Street corridor, still one of the most remarkable and impressive crossroads in Middle America and certainly in downtown Chicago. Marshall Field and Company location. This is at Randolph and Wabash. Former Marshall Field location. This is now Macy's, and this corner window at Randolph and Wabash, having previously worked at Marshall Field and Company in another lifetime. Whenever I pass this corner, it immediately reminds me of my time working there, and pretty noteworthy window created by Amy Meadows in the window display department at the time. And this is a photo Amy sent to me of this corner window in that very same spot, recreation of Dynasty, which was a popular television program at the time with Linda Evans and all the Dynasty characters assembled in a living room staircase. Joan Collins, the villain, and Linda Evans descending the staircase. really one of my favorite windows in my time when I was there that Amy and her team created. Thank you, Amy, for sending us this wonderful memory. Starbucks at Adams and Michigan Avenue, probably one of my least favorite of my favorite things. Almost decidedly slower paced for some reason. There always seems to be a hiccup in the service here. It is fairly busy. It was previously a much larger location, but they scaled it back as a crime mitigation measure, and the service really is still the same. A good location, I'd say it's a pretty quick turnaround of guests. They do not linger very long, especially since the renovation. I do frequent this location, and then sad to say, I always wonder why, because I usually leave somewhat dissatisfied with the experience. Of course, this location is directly across the street from the Art Institute of Chicago, another significant landmark in the city of Chicago and in Middle America or the world in general. A number of years voted the best attraction by Condé Nast. And I could not do a video, I suppose, without being censored for not including the Starbucks Roastery, which is at Michigan Avenue, I think on Huron or Erie. And I never frequent this location, even I go by it a number of times each week, if not, sometimes twice a day. I think this is touted as the largest Starbucks in the world, but I'm really not into that. It's pretty much perceived by me as a tourist attraction. Of course, I have been in it. They're known for this curved escalator. When it first opened, it was included in a sermon at church about, they were comparing it to the wonders of Solomon's temple with the inlaid jewels and the curved escalator instead. So, it figured somewhat prominently in local culture, and it's certainly a welcome addition to Michigan Avenue. This, of course, is in the former Crate and Barrel space. I believe the building is still owned by Gordon Siegel, and Crate and Barrel did continue to operate in this location long after Gordon Siegel divested himself of the company. And as it turned out, he could make more money leasing his building to Starbucks instead of to his namesake, Crate and Barrel. So, lesson from modern business. It's also next door to the Women's Athletic Club, another landmark of Michigan Avenue in downtown Chicago. Starbucks at State Street and Adams, probably also on my least favorite of my favorite things. Staff is probably overly solicitous and overly friendly to the point of distraction, and actually providing what's perceived as slow service. It's probably not as slow as Michigan and Adams, but it's a combination of slow and annoying. Sounds kind of critical, but I love everyone, and I love everyone at all the Starbucks, and I love the people, the counter staff at State and Adams, but probably not as disappointing as Michigan and Adams, but I would probably describe it as number two, nonetheless. Lastly is the Dearborn and Division, the Division Street Starbucks, which has been reduced to just pretty much a pickup and a stop in, stop out. You cannot linger. This was when I took away all the furniture, the counter staff told me it was because they were the highest incident Starbucks in the city of Chicago, which initially sounded like a good thing to me. But then as I contemplated it more, I realized incident meant crime incident. It wasn't the highest incident of good experience. So probably the next to the Northern Trust location, this would be my less frequented location, but it is on my radar as one of the go-to Starbucks in the orbit that I live in here at Chicago. Never been a big fan of Anna Wintour, but I think that she points up the idea that Starbucks is affordable luxury that almost anyone can afford. I probably spend, I didn't calculate it, but probably over $1,000 a year on Starbucks. I probably have better things I should be spending my time on and my money, but associating yourself with a brand, I don't even particularly like Starbucks, but in the time of living in Chicago, the marketplace has pretty much been reduced to Starbucks only. Originally, we had Seattle's Best and Caribou Coffee and or Fazioni, I believe it was called. I think they were all somewhat related. I believe Starbucks first arrived in 1990s here in Chicago at Rush and Oak Street location, and I was taken there by some friends when it first arrived and introduced to Starbucks as they burn their coffee, which always stuck in my mind, which I didn't quite understand at the time what that meant, but I believe it meant that their beans are very roasted, thoroughly roasted. Uh, and other anecdotal information I've learned over the years about Starbucks, they do have the highest grade A beans as opposed to Dunkin' Donuts and other brands who use the B. So in theory, it's a high quality product that we enjoy and hate at the same time. But for me in downtown Chicago, it's always a good experience, whether you're running a coffee farm in Africa or running Vogue magazine. It seems to be a winner for most people in most places. We will discuss this and other topics as always on our Monday evening Fashion Coffee Hour call. If you'd like to be included on that emailing list, please let me know. I include my email in the description of this video. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.